So does that sweatshirt say Milford? Does that say Milford? What is that? Is that Milford? Milford. I think, is that Milford, right there by Highland? That Milford? Yeah, I went to that high school. I think my son played in that team, the Milford Mavericks. That was pretty cool. Like just bringing back memories. I'm just all excited now. Yay, Milford. Milford High, we're for you, here for you, to cheer for you. Actually, I transferred. They built a new school, Lakeland. I was the first graduating class of Lakeland High School. And so now there's like 45 class pictures, and you go all the way through them to the very first one. That's me. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. But, yeah, and I saw a Davison sweatshirt. Davison are state champs. That's pretty cool. State football champs. So this week, guess what I did? Yesterday, in fact. My wife, Cindy, pray for her mom. Her mom's in Michigan City, Indiana, and she's dying. She's at the end of her life, and Cindy's with her, and just wondering when she'll go home and that sort of thing. So we've been praying a lot about that. 'Tis the season, really, for that. I've done 2 funerals already. I'll do one next week, visiting hospitals a lot this week. But so what I did yesterday is I said, Christian, come on in here. Let's get our Christmas shopping done. We're going on Amazon. Oh, it is so great. It is so great. I bought everything. I mean, I can't believe how much I spent just on Amazon. So Christian and I bought all his gifts for her and all my gifts for her and all that sort of thing. So we're doing all that Christmas shopping. And it reminded me of that one story. I refer to this story now almost as much as I refer to John the Baptist's brood of vipers things. But I'm feeling that we're at this time of the season. Remember that little old lady who she just got too old and too tired to go out shopping, and so she didn't know about Amazon. So she was writing out her Christmas cards, and what she did was she wrote a check for each of her loved ones to get their own Christmas gifts, something really nice for themselves. She wrote them all out and set them aside, and she wrote the Christmas cards, and she signed them and sealed them and sent it all off. And when she sent the last Christmas card off, she looked and she realized that all the checks were sitting there in a nice, neat pile, and that she had written Christmas cards that said, buy your own presents. Love, Grandma. Yeah, it's that time of the year, isn't it? So busy. Yeah, there's that one story Sam Levinson said when he was so excited when they were having kids. This is like a generation ago now. There was this doctor, a medical doctor. His name was Dr. Spock, and he wrote a book on raising kids and how to raise babies. And his wife was reading the book, and they had this newborn in the house, and his mother was in the house trying to help and all that sort of thing, and the baby's crying and crying, and she's looking at the book trying to figure out what to do, and the baby's crying and crying, and she's looking at the book still trying to figure out what to do, and the baby's crying and crying, and finally the mother-in-law yells down the stairs, put down the book and pick up the baby. Yeah, and I think that ties into this season because, we need to put down that busyness that we're in, all the craziness that we're in, and just pick up that baby. Pick up Jesus. Pick up the infant Jesus and just contemplate, what does this mean for me? That God became one of us. God is incarnate. God didn't just become one of us. God became the least of us, a little helpless baby. And so that's pretty cool if we think about all the implications about how much God humbled himself to come into this world in the least possible way. In this insignificant home, in a small little town on the outskirts of the empire of Rome. Yeah, God comes in that way. What does that mean for us? How does that mean God can touch us in our fringe areas or in our least areas? And how can we imitate that? How can we become like God and be humble and just be available for everyone? I really was impressed with the readings this week. We did the same reading Wednesday that we just did today. And it was, this is how the birth of Jesus came about. It's out of Matthew. And it talks about the fact that Mary, before she lived with Joseph, was found to be with child. And that, so Joseph goes to sleep and has a dream. Does that remind you of anyone who had dreams, who had visions? Who was that person in the Old Testament who had those dreams, who had those visions? Do you know? Joseph. Yeah, the youngest. The brothers, Jacob and all the sons of Jacob. So Joseph is the one who has dreams. And I think in the time of Jesus, it was just horrible. It was just horrible. They had the chaos of oppression, just being dominated by the Romans. They had the chaos of poverty and brutality. Because they were dominated, they were poor. Joseph and Mary, when they made the sacrifice for Jesus, didn't make the normal one. They made the sacrifice that poor people make. Turtle doves instead of the lamb. They couldn't offer a lamb because they were so poor. So poverty and brutality and political chaos being dominated. And then, on top of all that, you can almost just hear Joseph say, yeah, and Mary's pregnant, and I didn't have anything to do with it. And what are we going to do? And that's the world Jesus comes into. How cool is that? Because that means that he can come into your world. There's no world so out of control, so chaotic, that that child Jesus can't come into if we contemplate what that means for us. How can he come in for us? So I wanted to talk about the name. Joseph in the dream is told to name him Jesus because he's going to save his people. That's what he came to do. Jesus says that. I came to seek out and to save the lost. I came to save, not to judge for goodness' sake. I came to save. And so they name him Jesus. Jesus is an English word. We probably get it from the Germans who got it, from the Greek, who got it from the Jews. So it went through a lot of changes. But in the Jewish, it's Yeshua. And so we translate Yeshua into English, from the Hebrew, we translate it into English as Joshua. So Jesus was really Joshua. And Joshua means Savior, the one who saves. And so we just took it from Hebrew, Yeshua, into Greek, Jesus. And from Jesus, we get in Spanish like Jesus, or in English, Jesus. And so we get that name. So it means Savior, the one who comes into the world to save. That's so cool. That's the good news of Christmas, that God came into this world to save you and to save everyone else as well. That's the good news. That's the good news of great joy. He is our Savior. And so I was reading this homily online this week, and it said, yeah, he comes as the rightful king. He is the rightful king. He's the one who made us, who created us. And so God comes into the world as the rightful king who comes to claim what is his. You, me, all of us. And it's as if one of these movies we watch, like Robin Hood, so the king's gone and someone else tries to take over the kingdom and starts oppressing everybody, or any of the Star Wars where they're trying to, get out from under the oppression of the evil king. And so the rightful king now comes to claim what is his, and that's you. He created you, and you are his. And this God who was foretold by all the prophets that he was coming into the world, yeah, he's a God of justice. He's a God of mercy, but a God also of, that just, because he's a God of justice, he's a God that burns to make things right. Our God burns to come into your life and to make right everything that is in your life. Wow, that is so powerful. That's where we get to in the fourth Sunday of Lent. And so God hates sin. God hates injustice. God hates violence. Why? Because they make gloomy this beautiful creation, this beautiful world that God created. And he looks at it and says, wow, it is good. And so it's been taken captive by sin, by violence, by injustice, right? And so the king comes as a warrior to make things right. Yes. But how does he do it? It's so ironic how he does it. He does it, what? By clandestinely, kind of by stealth. He kind of sneaks in behind enemy lines as a baby. Yeah, he sneaks in behind enemy lines as a baby to do what he came to do, to be that warrior, to reclaim you and me and all of us, to reclaim whatever it is that is his. That's what God's doing in this season. I just think that is so cool that that's how God comes, and then he asks us to live like he lived, to be in the world as a baby, but also to be in the world to help reclaim for God all that is God's. Probably the thing that impresses me the most this time of year, and it kind of, I've always known it, but I've never felt it so much as this year. But Pope Francis talks about the nativity scene, and he called it the domestic gospel. Look at that. That's a family, right? It's a domestic gospel. It's good news in your homes. Wow. That's the sanctuary. And so I was doing funerals this week, and they just wore me out. Sometimes I just feel it too much, and I'm overwhelmed by losing people that we love so much here, who are so much a part of us. One of them was Nancy Gorski. Was there anyone ever better? I don't know. Her and Bob would always go out to the homebound every Friday, on First Friday, and just visit people who couldn't make it here. And you know what they said about her? They said her home was her sanctuary. I'm like, that's the gospel. That's it. That's the nativity message. Your home is your sanctuary. The domestic gospel. And that doesn't mean for you men that your home is your sanctuary, that you get to go into your man cave and drink beer and hide out. It's the exact opposite. You get to go into your home and serve the way Jesus came into the world to serve, not to be served. And so when we go into our homes, we go in to serve, not to be served. I was talking to Daniel about this, and he was saying, yeah, in my house, exactly. That house is my sanctuary. And he says, and that just means I go home and wash dishes. Yeah, I go in there to serve because my home is my church. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I wonder if this week you could reclaim your home as your sanctuary, your home as your church, by the power of the mystery of Christ being born into a home and making that his sanctuary. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And so that's really what God's working in me. I did another funeral, man just as good, Ray Ranville. Wow, I can't believe Ray's up there. I never would have taken this job at Holy Redeemer if I knew everyone was going to go to heaven. But yeah, Ray, the world's better with Ray in it than out of it, I think. I wish he was still here. But Ray, you know what they said about him? I heard someone at the funeral home the night before said he absolutely cherished his wife. I'm like, darn. I need to do that. Yeah, that's making my home my sanctuary. That's having home as my church. Absolutely cherishing my wife. Not being in it to be served, being in it to serve. Yeah, I learned a lot today from people who were parishioners who have gone before me. I hope you can take that with you and claim that for you. And just claim your home to be your sanctuary. Reclaim it if you have to, like Jesus. Just get in behind enemy lines and bring that good news of the nativity. That what his name is Savior. He came to save us, to save every aspect of our life, every aspect of our life, especially our homes. That's our Advent faith. Yeah. And what a wonderful, wonderful challenge I've had through the week. What a wonderful season we've been through. It's almost Christmas. And what a wonderful faith we have.